Hello friends, welcome to our video. This is an unusual video, especially for those of you that are interested in mystical things such as the Gospel of Thomas. For those of you that may be ministers or biblical scholars, I think this should prove especially interesting. What the information that I have for you is probably the biggest secret relative to the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas is the 114 enigmatic sayings of the Master Jesus. It was discovered of course, in the 3rd century, and around the 2nd or the 3rd century is when they think it was probably composed, but like the other Gospels. But the thing about it is that it was outlawed by the Roman Catholic Church, and I think when I get through with this video, when you get through listening to this video, you'll quite understand why the Roman Catholic Church outlawed it. They outlawed it under the penalty of death. If you were caught with a copy of this, you were subject to being burned at the stake. So there was a lot involved in reading the Gospel of Thomas during those first few centuries when the Bible was being formed. And you'll understand why, if you understand anything at all about modern Christianity, you'll understand why this was left out of the Bible, because it reveals information that's not readily available. It's there in the New Testament, but it's not readily available unless you know how and where to look for it. The church has done, organized Christianity has done a very good job of hiding the truth for almost 2,000 years now. Well, at least 1,700 years now. And the Gospel of Thomas was rediscovered. They had bits and pieces of it, parts of it, of course, that they had, and references made by different biblical scholars and theologians throughout the centuries. But no one had a complete copy of the Gospel of Thomas until 1945. And a copy was found buried in the desert in a place called Nag Hammadi, Egypt. A small, very obscure, small little village. It was found by some Arabs. I believe they were digging for fertilizer or something when they found this. Anyway, it's an amazing thing that it was rediscovered after being lost for 1,700 years and being outlawed by the church. It's a very powerful, powerful document. And the essence of it and the secret of it, I'm going to reveal to you in this video. Now, what I'm about to reveal to you, let me remind you, you're not going to find this anyplace else on the internet. This was given to me in a dream. An angel appeared to me in a dream, which happens quite frequently to me, and told me this information. It's not something that I discovered necessarily myself. It was given to me, and I do appreciate that fact. The answer, it's kind of like a riddle. When I read it to you, you'll understand it's a riddle. And in matter of fact, probably over a third of the sayings, of the 114 sayings that are in the Gospel of Thomas, read like riddles, or perhaps you might call them Zen koans. There's inherent information, mystical information within each of them. Of course, you have to discover what that information is. And that's the wonderful thing about the Gospel of Thomas. It's almost like a time capsule with a lock on it, with a spiritual lock on it, you might say. In other words, until you are ready and at that place in higher consciousness where you can understand and appreciate and integrate the information that it has for you into your life and to use that information, then you're locked out. In other words, to understand it, you either have to have, as in my case, an angel or someone, a mystical being or something like that, open the information for you and give it to you firsthand, or you have to discover it yourself through a higher state of consciousness. I would like to take claim that I discovered it through a higher state of consciousness, but I am thankful that this angel saw fit to reveal this to me. So let's get right on with it. I'm going to quote to you 2 sayings out of the 114 sayings. These 2 sayings in themselves encapsulate and summarize what you might say all of the other sayings are saying all together. They just reinforce what these 2 sayings are saying. Now, you're going to have to follow this real closely, so I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm reading to you. I'm going to read to you from the 2nd saying. These sayings are called logia. When you read it in the Gospel of Thomas, that's the Greek word meaning the sayings or whatever. And this comes from, that I'm getting ready to read to you, comes from the 2nd saying. Jesus said, "Those who seek shall not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel. And then they will rule over all. Now, there's a lot of mystical information in that. Let's look that back over real carefully here. He said to seek and you will find. We read that, of course, in the regular Gospels. But he goes on to say in this particular saying, he says, when they do find, that they will be upset. They'll be disturbed. Now remember, the information that's going to be revealed to you tonight through this video, I'm doing it at night, that's why I say tonight, will disturb you. If you're a mainstream Christian, if you're a fundamentalist Christian, this is going to make you mad. It's not going to only disturb you, it's going to make you mad because it's going to sound blasphemous to you. But it says, after you get over being disturbed, when they are disturbed, they will marvel. In other words, the answers to the riddles tonight from the Gospel of Thomas, not only will you at first be disturbed, but then after you get over being disturbed, you will marvel, be amazed. And then if you use that information, Jesus goes on to say, you will rule over all. All right, let's skip now to the 13th saying, to the 13th Logia. We're talking here about the Apostle Thomas. When I say, and he did this or he did that, I'm speaking of the Apostle Thomas. The Thomas Didymus, who is supposed, they say, according to tradition, is the twin brother, or was the twin brother of Jesus. And I'll start now. And he, Thomas, no, let me back up, that's not Thomas. And he took him, in other words, Jesus took Thomas, and withdrew, and spoke 3 sayings to him. When Thomas came back to his friends, the disciples, they asked him, what did the Master Jesus say to you? And Thomas said to them, if I tell you one of the sayings that he spoke to me, you will pick up stones and rocks and stone me to death. And then fire will come from the rocks and devour you. Now let's read that just one more time to make sure you understand where we're going and the mystery that this sets up for you. And Jesus took him and withdrew. In other words, he withdrew to a separate place away from everyone else. And Jesus spoke to him 3 sayings. Now, notice here it does not say he spoke to him 3 words. It says he spoke to him 3 sayings. There's altogether a difference because a lot of ministers have come out and biblical scholars, and they've made a case for 3 words from the 3 Hebrew words from the Old Testament is what he said, and of course that has nothing to do with anything because that's not true. These are sayings. These are not individual words. Mind you that. When Thomas came back to his friends and to the words to the other disciples asked of him, what did the Master Jesus say to you? Of course, they were curious. And Thomas was reluctant to answer, obviously, because he says to them, if I tell you even so much as one of the sayings he spoke to me, you will pick up rocks and stones and stone me. And then fire will come from the stones and devour you. It must be awful powerful information. The 3 sayings, obviously. Now remember, the secret to understanding any of the logia or the sayings of the Gospel of Thomas is within the sayings themselves. It's like a key. It's like a master mystical key that you have to unlock the sayings, the meanings of the sayings. And it's always found within the sayings themselves. If we go back to the second verse that I read to you, or the second logia, the second saying that I read to you just at the very beginning of this video, remember now, you seek and you find, and when you do find, you're going to be disturbed. You're going to be upset. Kind of like Thomas suggests that they will be, his friends, if he were to tell them any of the sayings. But then after you get over being upset, you're going to marvel. You're going to be amazed. And then if you actually incorporate within your own consciousness the amazing, incredible information that is revealed to you in those three sayings, then you will rule over all. I'm going to tell you now what the angel told me those three sayings are. Ministers and theologians have scratched their head for years, since 1945, trying to figure out what on earth could these three sayings be. The first of the three sayings that Jesus said to him is, I am God. The second saying that he said to Thomas, you are God too. The third saying that he said to Thomas is, we are all gods. See, now that is a little disturbing if you're a mainstream Christian, because I'm saying that you too, every one of you watching this video, are God. Each of you are God. I think it was Emerson that said, man is a god in ruins who has forgotten his own divinity. But this is really not too far-fetched from what the Gospels are saying, because if you read the 10th chapter of the book of John, in that the Pharisees are questioning Jesus and trying to trap him because he says that he is the Son of God. In other words, they're daring him, that you dare say you're the Son of God? And he turns to him and he says, does it not say in your own scriptures, and he's referring to the book of Psalms, that ye are all that ye are all gods and sons of the Most High? Even Jesus himself, in the original Gospels, or the book of John, it's not a gospel, it's not one of the synoptic Gospels, it's just the book of John. There are three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and then there's the book of John. The first three are synoptic, the book of John is not. But it says in there, in the 10th chapter, the very same thing. You're gods. You've just got to remember and wake up and realize the power that is inherent in that saying. In a coming video in the future, I will reveal some more of the mysteries of the Gospel of Thomas. I think you biblical scholars should find them especially interesting. I'm sure you'll have critiques, and many critiques will come in. I'm sure this will generate many letters. But see, I think you know instinctively, anyone that reads this and hears those answers, where Jesus said, I am God, you are God, and we all are gods. He goes and answers every question that this logic, this saying, brings up before you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll have more in the future. Have a good evening. Good night.